Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm Morley.
And today we are with MSU certified coach Treloar Hawking, everybody.
Super happy to be here.
Listen, every time I see you, your smile lights me up. It makes me feel like a warm, sunny day. So welcome. We're so excited to have you here today. You have been a coach much longer than Danny. I'm not even certified yet. You've been in the game for a little bit. I'm actually friends with your client, and he says the most beautiful things about you. And yeah, he's the best. And so I would love for you to just kind of share your story and how you got to Rachel and becoming a coach.
Yeah. So a little about me. I for like over 20 years was an accounting controller. And there was a period of time where I thought, you know what, I have this calling to not only help myself, but help other people. So I maybe 12 or 15 years ago went on this path of becoming a Reiki master. I'd been practicing Reiki for a while. I got a couple yoga certifications, meditation certifications, a couple other certifications, and then a life coaching certification. And it was more traditional life coaching, not what we do, which is awesome. And I just really needed a healer. And I was living in the San Diego area and I found Rachel. We kind of found each other. And that's how I got to the mystical life coach eventually. But it was definitely through the experience of really feeling other people's stuff while I was in the process of working in my new career, right? Whether it was on the yoga mat or in a meditation or with one of my clients in a Zoom class, I was really aware that I was picking up other people's stuff. And so I actually found Rachel and she started to teach me some tools, which is amazing, on really how to navigate that. And so what's amazing about that, again, is that we learn it as mystical life coaches and learn to teach that to other people, not just highly sensitives, but tools that everyone can use. And so it's been quite a journey to get here for sure. And I'm super excited. Yeah. Getting to coach in this way is even more rewarding than anything else I've done so far. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hell yeah.
My question to you is, what was going on in your life? Because, I think Danny can speak for himself, but for me, depression, don't want to be on earth. And then, dwindling down in that and then coming to this work and understanding that, it's so much beauty in life. Can you talk a little bit about your story and how you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So for starters, I'm definitely a highly sensitive person. And I think that from day one on this planet, life wasn't easy to navigate, in all honesty. Super overly emotional.
Yes.
I had absolutely no one in my life that was helping me to navigate all of the sensory information that was coming in. As a small kid, I really felt like an outsider, right? I felt completely misunderstood, misperceived, and it really led to a lot of triggers, interestingly enough, aside from the normal childhood wounds, right, of maybe having a detached parent and things like that. I really started to create a lot of behavior patterns because of being a highly sensitive person. And I think as I got older, I was always seeking for understanding, seeking to learn how to help others understand me. And it really catapulted me into this awareness of like curiosity of different things, right? Like astrology when you're in high school and just different things. And so I was always dabbling here and there, even though I needed to show up in society as an adult, a single mom, as well, and have this really driven career in the masculine energetic world, where I was more of this, feminine thinking, feeling, person rumbling around. And so for me, it started to show up in anxiety disorders, me not having any boundaries, me not understanding that I was overly sensitive, and how that was showing up in the workforce, how single motherhood was affecting my energy level, and really picking up on what was going on with my kids. And so I developed an anxiety disorder, interestingly enough. And so what really catapulted me into being in a space where I needed to heal was having grand mal panic attacks all day long. And that was horrible. I don't wish that on anybody, right?
No.
And I had this childhood that had a lot of drugs and alcohol in it. And so I was really against taking prescription medicine for me, just because it was this huge trigger for me. So when I started to see a psychiatrist, they were like, hey, let's write you a script. And I was like, dude, you got to do something else for me. Yes. And he was like, So he sent me to the bookstore. Isn't that amazing? And it was just this lotus flower opening of amazing, different things out there that could help me understand how I got to where I was, just literally like nervous breakdown girl. So I started to unwind all of that. I learned about the fight or flight freeze mechanism, the fact that being a highly sensitive person and perceiving not only my own pressures that I was putting on myself of trying to fit in, right? Trying to be different for everyone, that the struggles of being a controller at an organization, responsible for everything, the struggles of being a single mom. It was just all too much. And so I had to find ways to start to unwind all that in my life. And that was really the starting point for me. Yeah.
I can relate so much to the anxiety disorders, because I struggled so badly a few years ago. Like really every day I was trapped in this horrible prison of my mind, just worrying about different things, and everything was triggering anxiety, and it was just this downward spiral, which obviously I don't know if you experience this, but relates a lot to depression as well. But it's difficult, and then you find the work like this, and then all of a sudden you have the tools, and anxiety is not something you ever need to fear anymore. It's still going to come, maybe not as much, maybe not very often, but when it does come, instead of worrying about it and being afraid of the anxiety, which obviously puts fuel in the fire and makes it worse, you're able to just go in and love it for what it is, and love what it's showing you. What aspect of yourself needs love right now.
It's so beautiful too. That's one of the things that we get to go to just naturally right now for the rest of our lives. Thank God.
Yeah. I can really relate to being so highly sensitive. Like just being a child and nobody understanding like why you feel everything that you feel. I used to go to my mom and I'd be like, I have this rushing feeling. Everything's rushing around me and I feel like I'm out of control and I don't know what it is. And she'd stand there and be like, okay, just why don't you go play with your toys? And it was always like dismissive. And then you sit down as a 5-year-old and you're like, I guess I'm nuts. Like, I guess there's just something wrong with me. And then that's the narrative and the program that gets built within you, right? That you are different. Something is wrong with you. You're not like other people. And then we gotta hide our true selves, and then we create our masked self, and then we're like, okay, I'm like everybody else. And that's why I think we get into the drugs and the alcohol and all of these things.
Yes. Yeah. It's so crazy too, because I have a twin and he was highly sensitive. And he, his behaviors as kids, it showed up really angry all the time, right? I mean, he get overstimulated and just like get angry. And so I couldn't be that. Interestingly enough, so I'm over in the corner sulking and he's having a tantrum, and I can't even imagine what it was like for my mom, right? To go like, what is up with these kids? But the labels that I was given by all my stepdads, by the adults in my family, just of you're too sensitive, stop crying. I can remember my dad saying, stop your damn sniveling all the time to me. And I'm like, I'm literally upset for a reason, people, but nobody knew, Nobody knew, how to support us, which is really interesting. At least we had each other.
Yeah.
My brother and I, right? But no one was telling us what it was. And so, we were just sometimes suffering together, I guess.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I'll tell you, those labels, they did a lot of damage. They really did.
Yeah.
Unworthiness is definitely my biggest thing, right? And when I think about how being a highly sensitive person and the labels and the not being able to be myself, right? What it meant, I almost felt like I had to be this rule follower, but I felt like a rebel, for lack of a better word. And so there was always this polarity and contrast for me that I had to navigate in every situation, right? So I was like always just trying to show up and, like you said, put the mask on or whatever. But that felt so untrue for me. And so this huge dilemma always within me of just wanting to be seen, for Pete's sake. Why should I have to hide all this? How come you guys don't see what I see? I can remember this point where I was 14 and I was sitting with one of my best friends and I was like, just telling her, like, this is what it feels like to be me. And she was clueless. And I thought, holy cow, I am, from a different planet, I guess. Like, okay, I'll just let go of that and try to be you. Right. Yeah. And just go ahead and follow those rules, right? What are the patterns? What am I supposed to be doing? And just kind of like march through all of that. And it was really sad, in a lot of ways, because there's a kind of like a little dying, right, that goes inside.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how are you with anxiety now? Is that something that's still...
That's a good question. Yeah. I would say that having anxiety show up is usually pretty shocking for me at this point. I'll be like, whoa, what just happened?
Right.
That's that old feeling that I haven't had in a really long time. I need to take a deep breath. Right. And I need to go ahead and open my heart right now. And I need to get super curious as to what just happened. Because a lot of times the trigger is so in your blind spot, right? It was so subtle. Something there just bing. I always say anxiety, it's like a light switch, right? And when you're really in it, it's stuck on, right? And as you learn to heal yourself and work through the chemicals and things like that, and start to build your practices of self-care, right? Especially energetically, you can get that light switch off. And so it's so shocking when all of a sudden the lights are just blaring on and anxiety is there. And so I'll do that. I'll just pause. Sometimes I have to actually remove myself, but it's pretty rare.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
We all were drawn to Rachel for specific reasons. I think, the calling was there. And so what was it about her that really pulled you in? Because, Treloar, you seem like, just like a flower, like just really like, and Rachel's like this going, wow, like a meteorite. So what was the draw there?
Yeah. Well, it's really funny how we found ourselves. I don't know if it's okay to share, but she was in a meditation and 2 days in a row, she was told to call the place I worked at. They said, somebody needs you, call there. Isn't that amazing? And of course she's like, well, it's 2 days in a row, I'm going to make a call. So, her beautiful, download intuitive self was just like, I'm not going to fight this. So she called and she's like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I do. Somebody, I'm supposed to call you guys and let you know. And I worked at a wellness center down in San Diego. And, we would totally receive that call as super cool. So she talked to our HR and I was the manager of ops then. And we were out for tea a couple days later. And I was like, man, I need a healer. I'm just going through some stuff right now. And I feel like I've hit this ceiling and there's so much old wound, deep wounds that are really just keeping me at this place where I can't continue to heal and grow and expand. I need someone. And she's like, man, I talked to the coolest chick yesterday or the day before. Her name's Rachel Fiori. And she's like, here's her number. And that's how I met Rachel. Isn't that amazing?
That's cool.
And I have to tell you that when I saw her, she was the perfect gift. right? The perfect gift, exactly what I needed in that moment. And I remember asking her, psychically, because she's very psychic. And I actually come from a pretty psychic family as well. So I was super comfortable and I was like, okay, I got all these questions. And she's like, they're not going to let you know that right now. But what I can tell you is this. And it was exactly what I needed to know to pull the ceiling away right in my first session in 20 minutes with her. And so she's been my coach for a really long time.
How many years? How many
7 years?
How many?
7 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've seen
No wonder
her...
you're such a flower.
Oh, I know, and I've just I've seen her, in workshops and things as she was really fine tuning all of this beautiful work, and so I had to be in her first certification. Had to, like, there was no way on earth it would happen without me. And so, because I just adore everything she does. She is amazing. Amazing. She is no bullshit, people.
Yeah.
No.
Like, and it's time for all that, because I'm pretty fluffy, woo-woo, with some of the things that it's time for all that to go away. Right. And that's what I love. And there's so much permission for us, right, to show up. And we haven't been given permission to do that. Right? A lot of us haven't. Yeah. People don't want to hear the truth. I learned that as a really small child. That was one of my big triggers, is nobody wanted to hear the truth from me. Just go shut up, cry in the corner. Don't let us hear you. You highly sensitive being who can actually sense, feel, and know what's going on right now. We don't want to know the truth. We want to be in our trauma, right? Because they didn't know. So it's so liberating to get to be in this organization, and two, to personally have that freedom. Like, the ceiling's gone. Sky's the limit, right?
Yes. Also, like, your story is so cool. Me and Danny just listened to her on a podcast, and then we just hit her up. But no, she's getting downloads of it. That's
cool.
Oh,
that's very divine.
Now, you kind of already answered this question, but you said originally you took Reiki and then yoga certifications and then a life coach certification, but you said more of a traditional one. Yeah. As you've gone through the process, what really is the difference between what you did in the past, where it was a traditional life coach, and what this work brings as a mystical life coach at Masters of Self University?
This is a really important question. I'm so glad you asked it, because, there's a lot of great things about traditional coaching, right? But it's never going to get you fully healed. Okay. Because people need to understand that we're mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical beings. And it takes all of those aspects to heal. And true healing happens in that emotional level, right? That ethereal level, if you will. It's a subtle level, not so subtle, but we have to heal there in that space. And in a lot of traditional coaching, there isn't room for that. And I can honestly tell you, because I've known Rachel for a while and I've had her help me with her techniques, and taken workshops from her in the past. I've tried that in that model where it isn't maybe even agreed upon, because there always has to be the willingness and the devotion to do this work, because it's the hardest work. So trying to put in that emotional healing into that traditional model, if you will, wasn't successful. It wasn't successful. And this is what I love about her program so much. When our clients go through this program, when we did, right, when we were going through the certification, we break down things like how were we parented, to understand how it was that these childhood wounds started to become, and understand a lot too that they didn't know better either. And we start to see all of our mental patterns, right, our emotional patterns, our behaviors. We start to ask ourselves, how old am I when I'm in this space right now and I'm out with tea with my girlfriends and I've just been triggered? Like, who's showing up? When we go through all those things, it primes us so perfectly to be in honor and acceptance and surrender of the emotion that comes with that, right? That feeling, that trigger at the moment. And that's what allows us to get into that energetic space. And I don't think that there is really anyone out there teaching us to go into the space of our heart.
No.
And it's such a beautiful space to be in. Oh my God, I wish that society was ready for us to rear every single little being that's born at this second, right? With all heart space consciousness for the rest of their lives. Like, what an amazing planet we would live on. You know, but what we get to do right now as coaches is to heal all of us that are already here living with that old paradigm, right? In those old patterns and behaviors and wounds that have been created in that old paradigm, and shift it so we never have to be in it again. So that's really the difference, you know, between traditional coaching and what Rachel does. And I love the word mystical in front of it, because it was that permission, like I said. You know, somebody in that traditional coaching aspect, they might want a really practical solution to their challenge, if you will. And
it's so practical. And
yeah.
the concepts that she teaches, like I've heard them in other places, like I think the Native American concept is called Shante Ishta, which means to live from the heart, right? And you know, you go into yoga and it's the same kind of thing, as they want to live from the heart, but then to combine that with the triggers, the programs, and figuring out like when our emotions are triggered and we're feeling, let's just say, anxiety, instead of pushing it away and learning mechanisms to cope and suppress and go, oh, just let me just do this Sudoku so I don't have to worry about this anxiety and calm myself down. We do the opposite. We do, let's look at this anxiety. Let's go into our heart and let's figure out, where did this anxiety start? And let's heal that thing. And once that thing's healed, then the anxiety doesn't need to ever come again.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so practical.
It is practical.
With you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, a beautiful tool. So amazing.
You know, I can really relate to you on the core wound of unworthiness. And since you're 7 years in the game, do you feel like you've really dug in there and really extracted it? Or do you feel like even in this, you know, in this moment, it definitely still comes up? And how do you navigate that? Because I feel like mine has so many deep layers, and every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, it's just a toothpick I have in my hand that's like going into it, you know? So I'd love to hear you speak on that.
I so appreciate this question because, you know, the journey of life, as they say, the journey of uncovering the unworthiness is, I think, going to be forever. And what's crazy about that is I learned in this certification, right? Because the first 3 months we like dig deep, and I thought, holy crap, that stuff is still there. Like, I've been doing shit tons of work on this to people, and you can just get deeper and deeper and deeper. And so you're not with a toothpick. You are like big, huge snow shoveling it out, right? You know, like we're excavating, and it goes really fast though. So even though it's sometimes more painful because you got down deeper, right? You've been working at that tool, hopefully, you know, on a regular basis. And so you can clear it a little faster, if that makes sense. And so that was my personal experience anyway. Even in this certification, I was like, oh my God, I was uncovering some stuff. I can remember one day of absolute sheer terror. I was like, I don't have any control over anything. And I realized one of my biggest, you know, literally biggest patterns is control. And it has a lot to do with being a highly sensitive person, you know, because trying to control my environment so I'm not overstimulated, over emotional, overreactive, over suffering, right? And so, you know, I have to clear that control and learn surrender, and actually to get to the unworthiness and heal it completely, because they're all stories that tie into that web. It's so crazy. And so I don't know if that's what you wanted for an answer, but the reality is that, you just get to start digging really, really deep. And the euphoria, I think, gets even more, you know, when you do get to release it. You get to feel that as well. Yeah. And then hope for that liberation all day, every day, every second.
You know, I think a lot of people think that this journey is like, you know, so blissful, and it's like we're always like happy, and it's the most challenging thing you can ever go and endure and go on. And to see you in this place, and you have this glow about you. And I think it's really a testament to how much work you've done on yourself. And
thank you.
especially being an HSP, you know, we got 3 HSPs in the house.
I know, right?
Yeah, and we're so misunderstood. And also nobody tells us to understand ourselves. So to see, you know, that how much this work helps us navigate this world is what a blessing, what a gift.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the really cool tools that we learn in this program, you know, not only to start to embody our hearts, right? This beautiful, energetic, divine heart that we have that is got unlimited pure potentiality of glorious love, right? And anything can be born in that, right? Happiness, joy, everything can be born in that if we can be in that space. And one of the tools that we learn when we go into the heart is to open, clear, and detach. And that's been really important for me as an HSP. One of the things I noticed when I was coaching my other style of clients was in my heart space, literally in my heart space, I was feeling all this energy, right? All of this information coming from them on the other side of Zoom to me. And I was like, I don't have the training to navigate this. I mean, I can barely handle my own stuff, people. Right. And I was like, what is going on? And I've been working, you know, in Reiki for over 20 years and, you know, doing healing sessions, but I wasn't feeling it like I was one-on-one with a person where I was just really in this openness with them, you know, with the solemn intent of helping them navigate whatever issue they've got going on or goal that they want met or whatever. And so, you know, I went to Rachel and I was like, look, this is what's going on for me. And she said, Treloar, you know, this is your high sensitivity. You're actually picking up on all of that stuff. And so what you need to do is discern the difference between your stuff. Like, are you actually triggered by the subject matter? Right? Is there something for you to take responsibility for? Or is this all their stuff? And so I really needed, and I still work on all the time, navigating whose is whose as a highly sensitive person in every instance. You know, at the office, you know, I get a bunch of information and I'm like, oh, take a nice deep breath in, open my heart. Whose is this? Oh, that's what's going on with her right now. And oh, that's what's happening over there. And then I ask myself, is it my job to do anything about it? Well, if they're not my client, right? And I'm just a person in a room, maybe not. And then I get to pay attention to me and say, what's going on with me right now? Was that all them? Or did something get triggered in you? And let's open our heart and deal with that. So it's like, become aware, discern, send back, if you will, clear, detach from it, and then go ahead and sit with my stuff and, you know, and take ownership of that and, you know, and love it for whatever it is and allow that to alchemize within me through the power of the open heart and then move on. Right. And so those are the types of things that I'm definitely working on right now as a, you know, accepted HSP. Yeah. I am it, badge of honor.
Before I started working with Rachel, I knew I was a HSP without the label. And I was really concerned and worried about going into a coaching session. I wanted to be a coach, but hadn't done this program, and opening up someone's wounds and not being able to handle it. I know I've mentioned this before, and learning what it means to be a HSP and how to, as you just beautifully described, like open, clear, detach, and coach through it. And it's been a real game changer for me. And I walked through life taking on everyone's stuff and internalizing them and thinking that it was me, you know, and exactly what you were saying. And I remember this specific point this winter when I was, you know, we learned about HSPs, and this person came over and they were like kind of very intense, and I took on all the energy, and then I had a moment and I was like, is this mine? And it wasn't. And I managed to, within minutes, clear and detach. So it really is a huge skill to learn. If you are a HSP, and there's not many programs out there that actually offer work to include them. Have you noticed the more that you've done this work, especially being a HSP, that any psychic gifts have came online? I
It's
know
an
you've worked
interesting
with Reiki.
question.
Yeah.
I told you I was from a pretty psychic family. And I mean, that's part of my unworthiness story as well, interestingly enough, is that we weren't supposed to show those gifts. So not only was I stymied and shut down as a highly sensitive person, I was also shut down as somebody who came in with a lot of awarenesses. And again, it was one of those things where I was like, nobody gets it. I'm not like anyone else. It feels terrible being different, absolutely terrible. So I'm just going to try and fit in. And so there was this period of my life where I was just like blinders on to those. And there would be these huge hits of intuition, and I would be screamed at, with information. And then I would finally say something. And I have to tell you, when I did share, it was such a beautiful experience, right? But I still didn't always give myself the permission to be there, because I was always like, nobody wants to hear it, right? Just be quiet. And so when I left the corporate world, out of all that very strong, powerful masculine energy, super successful.
Yeah.
And I started to navigate the feminine world of yoga and meditation and really get into a lot of these heart space modalities. I finally had permission to start showing some of those, interestingly enough. And so it was such a beautiful gift to just get to have like-minded people around me that I could share my intuitions with. As an HSP, I think we know things on a sensory way, but if we haven't had the opportunity to dabble in it, we still may not understand it, right? Because there isn't somebody we can bounce the information off of. And so I've definitely been to answer that question even further, I've been kind of in a dark night of the soul, interestingly enough, because I came in with some extra things, claircognizance, things like that. They've kind of been shut down just a little bit right now because we're shifting vibrationally, so that, and what I noticed and what I really do believe is true now, when I was sharing with you when I started coaching, I was feeling everything in the heart. And it was so new. I was usually getting information elsewhere, either here or hearing or seeing or just knowing. And all of a sudden the information was here, and it was in a completely different method. And that's one of the reasons why I needed Rachel's help as well, because I was like, my normal senses aren't speaking to me in the same way.
Wow.
And when I got on this path as a mystical life coach, that's when I finally realized that's why I was having the change in my abilities. And so I'm still actually navigating those, because they're showing up a little differently than they did before. And so it's this really cool,
wow.
Really cool, just kind of like sit back and surrender to it, you know? And for somebody who's got a big pattern of control, I'm constantly reminding myself, okay, let's just open up and surrender to that right now. So,
fantastic. Wow. A true evolution.
Yeah, really.
That's really cool.
Beautiful. You have a client, and it's interesting too, because he's a man. And so, not that they're, whatever, but I do think that's like a really interesting little angle. And so what has it been like being a coach and having your first client and seeing him blossom in the ways that he has?
Oh my gosh. Can I just say, I mean, so incredible, because I've had, 22 coaches or clients at one time in my old, career of coaching. And they're all nothing like this, right? In this, I have a couple clients actually, and one's a few weeks before the other in the course, and it's so amazing to see the willingness and the dedication, right? Because that's the type of client that is going to really succeed, and get their bang for their buck, and live and reap the rewards for the rest of their lives as this person. And so I've been so fortunate to have clients that are ready to receive this information. Usually they found Rachel, through podcasts or the website or, all the things that she's really into. And so, she's done her magic in her beautiful way of just showing up as who she is. And they've come in ready for real change. And so it's extraordinary. It's, a complete high when you're, just in the session with them and taking them through the healings, of what's going on for them in that moment, and just watching the change in their bodies when, when their hearts are open, it's so beautiful, you guys.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
It really so beautiful. That's highly sensitive. Right there.
That's what it means to be a HSP.
Yeah.
I guess you mentioned a comment earlier about embodying the heart. And so for you, what does it really mean to embody your heart?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What an amazing question. Because you can think of it in that mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical aspect, right? So one thing for me is Rachel always has to remind me, Treloar, get back in your body. So I have a tendency to want to be okay, that feels really great up there. And so for me, getting into the heart is actually that first reminder to get into my physical body, right? I'm here for a reason. Enjoy the ride, right? It's this wonderful playground of learning. And to really open that spaciousness in my physical body is something that allows me to navigate, if you will, all the sensory perception that I have as a highly sensitive person. And then in order to be spacious in my emotional body means that I get to heal. And it also it means that when I'm sensing and feeling other people's emotions, that I'm this amazing empath for it. And can have this really amazing level of compassion for them and empathy. And that's a beautiful feeling when we can just hold the spaciousness, not only for ourselves, but for other people. And then of course, like I said, I'm in the spiritual realm a lot, so I have to come out of it and get back down into the real world. So so embodying it to me is on so many levels.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that you have to, Rachel tells you to ground, come back to the body.
And it's sometimes you just don't know how you're showing up, right? And she's no, really, get in your body.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I feel like as this podcast grows and there's more listeners and things like that, and there's so many coaching programs out there. I mean, they're everywhere. What would you say to people who are well, what's the difference? I know you guys are talking about heart opening, all that stuff. Halfway blood.
Yeah. So I can honestly say, there's coaching programs out there that are performance based, right? Maybe you're an athlete or something like that, and it's all about attaining, this super goal. There are people out there who, need support in leadership or navigating relationships, figuring out how to be their best self. And all of that work is great. However, if somebody is truly ready to do the warrior's work, because it is warrior's work, all of the other coaching, that stuff can come later, right? Because if we can open ourselves up to heal the stuff inside and to be free of all of that and to allow others to find their own freedom through that, by being this example of an open heart wherever we go, all of the need for those other coaching things actually will start to, transmute away, interestingly enough. And then there's the need always sometimes for mentors and things, right? For someone to share an experience with, we're humans, we're here to have human experience. I think if someone's ready to do this warrior's work, that's the first thing we should do, right? Let's just get to the root of it, the heart of it. right? And then everything else won't be such a trial and tribulation and a struggle to get through, because we've done all the hard work already. And then it's just epiphany, 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 epiphany through all of those other struggles in life.
You'll be able to dance through the rest of the different coaching programs you're doing, because instead of facing adversity and your programs coming up and you're reliving a wound, you're able, you've cleared all, the goal is through this work, clear all the wounds, so that anything that you do, you're bringing just pure presence, your best self, and an open heart. And that way you'll save a bunch of pain that you'll inevitably go to, because these lessons are going to come to you in one way or another.
They are.
And whether or not you choose to listen to them now or in 20 years after you've suffered from, let's just say you're doing a sport and getting injuries and injuries and injuries, there's a reason those injuries are coming. Your body's talking to you to go in and do this work. Once you do this, then you're free to do all of the...
I love it. So well said. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I always say to everyone else, like, when we do this work for ourselves, you know, when we love ourselves that much, right, to really do it, everything else is like the icing in the cherry, you know. So every other certification I get is going to be that much more at the highest level of that teaching, right? Because like you said, you've cleared the slate. And we can come at it from pure potentiality as opposed to muddy watered potentiality, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I also love the word potentiality.
Yeah,
I love
me
when you
too.
say it too. You know, I think when you begin this work, when you sign up to do this, you're energetically saying, let's go, baby. Right. And I realized that, like, I didn't think that when I first started out, I was like, oh yeah, it's good. Like, I was like, oh, I'm just going to learn stuff. Like, no, you're going to go through it so that you can learn. And so be ready, y'all, because this work is truly, when Treloar is talking about warriors work, we're literally go look up what a warrior is, because this is not for people who just like want to dip their toes and then dip out. It's really for how much will you show up for yourself as you navigate all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So true.
Are you willing to go into your pain?
Yes.
Gotta feel the heal, people.
Are you willing to see the unseen?
Yeah. And that's one of the really cool things, you know, a lot of people who come to coaching, I don't think there's a statistic out on it, but what is it? 50% of the people who go to therapy are HSPs, right? I'm sure, you know, there's got to be a similar percentage to coaching. And what's amazing with this work is we're learning how to navigate ourselves, you know, and that's what an HSP needs. You know, we do. We need to, you know, start to understand what's really going on over here. Is this me? Is it you? You know, is that my responsibility? No, it's not. This is my responsibility. Yes, it is. You know, and then get in and do the work, and the suffering stops.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, so
one of the things. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say real quick, for anyone listening, there's 20% of the population is estimated to be a HSP, meaning a highly sensitive person. So an example for me would be, I would go to the movies with a girl and I would be crying and she would be like, why are you crying? It's so emotional. So like,
this is me at the movies.
Yeah. If you don't like seeing animals being harmed, you can go online. I forget what the test is called, but you can do a test sensitive to like caffeines, energies, emotions, just, you know, seeing anything which really like takes you out of peace. That's like HSPs. I know we use that word a lot, but there might be people out there like, oh,
I appreciate that. So they say it's like depth of processing is, you know, as high as it can go. Overstimulated as high as it can go. You know, that they feel and are emotional, like to a high extreme, right? Very empathetic, just can't help themselves. Like we were talking about, like, I can't drive by something that's been injured, or I just lose it. And then the sensitivity to the subtleties, right? And that's that being in a room and, you know, just feeling what's going on for somebody else in the room. It's a lot. and they're like, shame on you for it, right?
Yeah.
And it's obviously a superpower once you once you attune to it and you accept it and you love it, it becomes a really valuable skill that you can call upon to understand how not only you're feeling, but other people are feeling, making your relationships better and a relationship to yourself better. And
it's like I said earlier, you know, it's kind of like a badge of honor. Like I came in this way for a reason, and you know, and I'm definitely somebody who dedicated myself when I left the corporate world to helping people just transform their lives, right? And I'm so happy that I'm a part of this organization because it's the truest sense of that hope, right? That I have to get to share, and how amazing to get to be a highly sensitive person in that process, because the spaciousness that we can hold for somebody else in their pain, right? When we're in an open heart is incredible. It's incredible. You know, we have this amazing potentiality to hold that spaciousness for them. So it's super cool.
Yeah. On that note, just to wrap this beautiful episode up, I was there's this app called Voxer where you vox, you know, and I was voxing one of our MSU coaches, and we were just talking about the things that we're going with, and he's like, I've never been at a job where it doesn't feel like my coworkers are coworkers. It feels like this family, and we can speak this very particular language and hold space for each other and understand how to help each other without projecting. And I was like, we are in something so out of this world, something so special. And to be here as a pioneer in this work and to be walking this walk with all of you is just, I mean, I shout out to my soul for choosing this, because there is nothing over in this world than being part of this. And I'm just honored and grateful to be here with all of you to do all of this, because it's it. It's it.
It is.
Yeah, this is me. I'm like, let's get busy, you know? And I mean, just like, I'm so excited to be in this space of service.
Yes.
I am. I'm so excited about it.
Yes.
It's going to transform lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people listening that probably want to work with you too. I might sign up. I might sign up with you. Okay. But if anybody wants to work with Treloar or Danny or any of our amazing certified coaches, please go to mastersofselfuniversity.com. Check out the whole website and then see what brings you in, see who draws you in, set up a consultation. Okay. Because this is the beginning of everything. The beginning of everything. Treloar, we love you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are doing an amazing job. I love watching your podcasts. Can't wait to see more.
If anyone is just listening to this, I urge you to get on YouTube just so you can see Treloar's beautiful smile, because she is radiating love right now.
Yes.
You've got to do it. You got to do it. You won't be you won't be disappointed.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Yes, we love you. To everybody at home, subscribe, share this around. You know, we're sharing the light. Leave a rating. And until next time, we'll see you guys then. Bye.
Lots of love, you all.